My friends, the time has finally arrived. 2 decades I've been on this planet. 2 decades I have yet to see a steam engine actually operating. And now, after all this time, steam has finally befallen the eyes of your boy.
Nice.
On this journey, we go up to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and follow the Summerville steam train all the way down to Summerville, Georgia, on the southbound leg of its round trip. A journey that was very far, very long, but was a lot of fun. And a journey that, of course, had to start off with me sailing somehow, somewhere.
What do you mean by that?
Let me explain. Let's go back to August 28th, 2023. While Norfolk Southern was dealing with the fact that a PTC outage had literally killed their whole system and they were basically able to run no trains, the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum made a wonderful announcement. After years of being sidelined due to COVID-19, the Summerville steam train was finally returning. Unfortunately, the doubleheader on this trip was only scheduled for September 16th, featuring Southern 630 and Southern 4501. And unfortunately, I did not have a ride, so I was not able to go over there. And I instead just went to Atlanta, where I was fumbling the CMT. But honestly, it was probably a blessing in disguise that I missed this trip. I heard that there were so many people there. Someone apparently drove a car into a ditch. It was mayhem. The one date that worked the best for me was October 7th, because it would be on that weekend that I would have been back home for fall break. So after getting over the fact that I was not going to see the doubleheader, I waited, locked it in the books, continued studying until finally the weekend of the trip was upon me. This was supposed to be a trip of the boys, me and the same crew that I was with when I was chasing 1776, but this ended up turning into a trip with the boys and Mama Bear. Love you, Mama. So, in preparation for this journey, I had been asking around for information. The man ARP was coming up clutch once again. So I knew what time I wanted to leave, I knew what time I wanted to get to the museum, and I knew just how long it would be for the train to complete its southbound run. So the day before, I packed up all my stuff, I made sure that everything was charging because we were not going to have another Julia incident, and I'd set an alarm for 5 a.m. so that we were all good to go. And you can imagine the surprise in my eyes when I decided to just randomly check my phone in the middle of the night, just to check what the time was, and I saw 6:46 on the phone. Now, at this point, I am incredibly flabbergasted because I know for certain that I had set an alarm, and in fact, I did. But me, in my infinite wisdom, when I set the alarm, I just chose an old one and changed the time to 5 a.m. An old one that was only set for the weekdays. I know, bro. Don't say anything about this, bro. We live, we move. The only consolation I had was that I was not the only person who was late. The other crew who was going in a different car, they were also just as late as me and were actually behind me by the time that I departed to head up to Chattanooga, Tennessee. After that little hiccup, I raced, got all my stuff ready, and me and Mama Bear departed on the approximately 2-hour journey from North Georgia to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Oh, what a glorious sight it was to descend the hill and to see white steam rising into the sky, and was blessed with the sight of my first ever encounter of steam engines actually running. Here at the entrance of the museum, we can see lots of equipment, both online and sitting. Right before us is Southern 630, and off in the distance, behind that old Southern Jeep, is Southern 4501, also online. As I stood here getting footage of the property, gawking at these steam locomotives that are actually running instead of just sitting at a museum somewhere, it suddenly came to my attention that I came here for a train. And suddenly I realized that the train that is moving off in the distance is the train that I literally drove 2 hours to see. Even outside of Atlanta, we stay selling in these streets. So we immediately left the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum and went over to a gas station not far from the property, ready for the chase. I had actually done some Google Map searching of this area and discovered that the street parallels the tracks for a very, very, very long time. And knowing that this train was not going to go more than 20 miles per hour, we decided to pull over and be in preparation for the chase. And soon we heard the oh so sweet sound of a distant steam whistle slowly approaching. The sound of the whistle will only get louder and louder. Until finally, the steam engine was practically upon us, and we pulled out of the gas station for the chase to begin. What a wonderful experience this was, man. Not only getting to see a steam train, but actually getting to pace it, this was so nice. It was a very unique experience because as I was filming, there was literal soot falling out of the sky, falling out of my hands. That isn't even something I considered, even though I knew this thing was gonna be puffing smoke. I never even really thought about how that actually falls around everywhere. Back to the chase. Fortunately for us, we were at the very head end of this chase. When I tell you that there were at least 10 cars behind us, all pacing this train, including the other crew who had made the journey up here with me. And with being in such a head-end position, we got all the glory of all the steam action right before our eyes. Our pace would abruptly be stopped by a railroad crossing that allowed the train to essentially cross to the other side of the road. Unfortunately for us, the streets continued to pace the railroad on the opposite side of the tracks. So now, even though we are backlit, it's time for some golden glare shots of the morning sun. After proceeding from this grade crossing, we continue down the road, where the parallel running of the streets and the tracks finally comes to an end. And with the race essentially done, and the steam locomotive definitely marking its presence in the area, we stopped at another spot where there was an old railroad crossing and the hills behind, making for a good shot. And if you're wondering how I know where I'm going in this area that I've never been before, the man ARP clutched up big by actually giving me a list of places to visit for both the southbound run and the northbound run. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much for this list. This was such a valuable resource to have. Anyways, back to the actual chase. Though this train was slow, it wouldn't be long before I started seeing smoke appear off in the distance, and then hearing a whistle. And as the smoke was getting thicker and closer, the crossing activated, and Southern 4501 popped up once again. Fortunately for me, right around this curve, this train had actually stopped for a crew change, affording me just enough time to get to a very popular spot to see this train departing as it continues south. With the train now going off into the trees, it was done for the pacing, and now time to actually get to some real chasing. And in the midst of this chase, I happened to come across this bridge while on my way to a different spot. The spot is supposedly very popular because of that very old Central Georgia bridge, and I literally had no idea that it existed. We were just on our way to a different spot, and we happened to come across it in the gas station sitting right next to it. And as the tail end of this train clears, before we depart, we get our first glimpse of this car.
Huh? Boy, ain't no way, boy. What?
Alright, back to the train. Having waited for the whole train to clear that gas station, I knew that we were not going to come back to the head end. But still, look at this beautiful shot of the sun glaring through the steam and smoke of the head end. Even though we're not by the locomotive, I still found this shot to be so cool. And I thought it was a very beautiful sight of engineering and nature in harmony. We would depart ways with the steam train just for a little bit, forsaking some pacing action that we could have gotten, to instead arrive at this curve that's another popular spot for photographers. the prize of the day rounds the curve into the tree line, and the high railer truck follows in pursuit, we go to the next spot, one of the most popular locations for the southbound runs of this train, the Rock Spring Curve. A very well-lit and scenic S-curve surrounded by a very calm area with livestock and chill people just enjoying life. I didn't catch this on film, but the crowd would be gathering very quickly for this spot. And as they did, 4501 blared its loud whistle as it came around the curve. Yo, I don't think I can emphasize to you how loud the whistle is on this locomotive. Well, I thought that maybe K5LLAs were loud on some Aces. Dogs, this junk is so ear-splitting loud, it's insane. Well, back to the chase. We continue on south, observing the train going through the open lands and actually in front of a college campus before arriving at the entrance of some industries. Industries that are marked by a modern railroad gate. And here we get another crossover of modern and rustic all in one shot. From here, the roads actually did parallel the tracks, but the speed limit here was much higher than our initial pacing adventure, so we would not be getting a lot of pacing here. Instead, we will essentially just be hopscotching from spot to spot, and instead settling for this basic, but still nice shot of the train, traversing an old crossbar crossing. From here, we'll continue to see a few of just the many other people who are out here chasing this train as we catch up to it and easily overtake it going through some trees. And while on our way to another spot, we decide to do a quick little pit stop for yet another crossover of modern and rustic with this Southern steam engine going in front of a Walmart. And this will be the last of the pit stops before we finally made it to one of the next main spots on this journey. Lafayette, Georgia. A very popular location, sporting an old rustic head on this wonderful afternoon, and lots of other visitors, all here waiting to capture the train. If you're wondering what that orange engine was, that engine actually belongs to the railroad that the steam train is running on. The Tennessee Valley Railroad does not own these rails. Rather, it belongs to the Chattooga and Chickamauga Railroad, a short line that services the area. From Lafayette, we would continue to yet another very popular spot for filming, Tryon, Georgia. Here on this cool, quiet afternoon, we are waiting for this train at this rather renowned trestle bridge that people love to record at. Joined in the waiting by the train off in the distance, just enjoying life. With the train appearing in the distance, we can get a good view as to how many people are over here. I told you this place was popular, and honestly, the dude in the overalls over here told me that when the doubleheader came, the place that we were standing at was covered with cars. So honestly, good thing that we came at this weekend. Surrounded by respectful people who are all just here, just enjoying the train. What a W, mans. Vintage engineering both on the road and on the rails. As soon after this car's passing, Southern 4501 came into close view. Right after the tail end clears, look who's right behind it, the high railer, continuing to monitor the train over its whole journey. As we exit out of Tryon, catching up to the train once again, going through the local area, we're getting pretty close to Summerville, so we'll only be making one more stop before we get to the final destination. Here, at the entrance to a yard, we parked at this road crossing to catch Southern 4501 going through the trees, blasting through all the leaves and making a ruckus as it approaches the end of its southbound run. From here, it wouldn't be a long drive before we finally made it to the end of Southern 4501's southbound journey on this wonderful Saturday afternoon. With now a much larger crowd of spectators, there was actually a city family event going on surrounding this train. And many people, probably some who have been waiting a few hours, finally got to see this rustic Kansas pull into the old station here. I've mentioned before that there is both a southbound run and a northbound run. And in case you're wondering how they're going to return back up north, well, let's go look. So, right after they park all the passenger cars and they make sure that everyone has gotten off the train, Southern 4501 is then going to decouple and pull off away from the passenger cars. From there, the train needs to clear a switch so that they can reverse onto the track adjacent to the passenger cars. From here, the crew will realign one more switch. A Southern 4501 now sits adjacent to the very cars it's been hauling for about 4 hours. And then once the crew has made sure that the area has been cleared of any spectators, the locomotive will then pull up over the switch, and head over to this very vintage turntable. A turntable that was built in 1916. Yes, this thing is 107 years old. And of course it has gone through maintenance, but it is more or less still in its same form, now holding a locomotive of even older age. Southern 4501 was built in 1911.
Incredible.
Yes, this thing is 112 years old. And somehow both of these marvels of engineering, both over a century in age, are now operating as Southern 4501 slowly rotates to face north. The crew makes sure that the points of the turntable and the actual railroad are aligned. and shortly after, 4501 exits off north. At this point, the steam engine just sits here because all the people who got off the train still have about 30 minutes to just explore the city, enjoy the festivities of the event that is surrounding this train. And the crew continued to do some more stuff with the locomotive. I'm not very familiar with the operations of steam trains and stuff like that, so if someone can explain to me why they were dumping up all of this water from the tender, I'd really appreciate that. Anyways, with the train not scheduled to move for a little bit, me and Mama Bear decided to explore the city a little bit, enjoying all the decorations that they had and all the little tidbits of fall fun that were littered all across the area. And as all good things must come to an end, we had places to go later in the day, so I said goodbye to my two buddies who had accompanied me on this trip. It was an absolute pleasure and so much fun getting to chase the train with you all, even if we weren't in the same car. And we traversed the crossing, as for one last time, we get to see Southern 4501 sitting in preparation for its eventual northbound exit. I hope that you guys enjoyed this wonderful trip of vintage engineering still alive. And as always, God bless. I will see you soon out on the high island.